Mythology is a difficult subject.
It touches on literature, history, anthropology, sociology, psychology, religion, and even science.
The word myth is thrown loosely around with the meaning of a widely held but false belief. That's not wrong, but it's definitely a more modern definition.
Besides its popular use, a myth is a traditional story of a people's history, or an explanation of phenomenons, typically involving supernatural elements.
So it seems mythology is not a big part of our lives anymore, that mythology has long lost its value in the present. But it hasn't. Mythology is still significant today, beyond its stories and epic tales. Mythology provides insight for these questions.
Who am I? Where did I come from? Why am I here? Where am I going?
Carl Gustav Jung, Swiss psychiatrist and psychoanalyst, whose work has been monumental in numerous fields, stated that because a systematic study of the world is beyond our powers, we have to settle for guidelines. Everyone establishes a view of their world based on their own understanding of it.
Notably, mythology on a global spectrum seems to share certain features. Scholar Joseph Campbell presents the monomyth. It is the similarities in themes, characters, and purpose from different cultures and different times throughout history.
Based on this, Campbell asks,
what is the secret of the timeless vision? From what profundity of the mind does it derive? Why is mythology everywhere the same beneath its varieties of costume? And what does it teach?
This brings us to our key questions. What does myth teach? Why is it the same everywhere? And what is its significance today? There are three main types of myths. Ideological, why and how something came to be.
Psychological, stories that provide a way to balance one's inner consciousness. They reflect images of self-discovery or resolution of an internal conflict.
And historical, stories with historical basis that retell a true or fictional event from the past and elevate it to greater meaning.
Found on a stone tablet dating 2100 BC in Mesopotamia, the Epic of Gilgamesh is one of the oldest known myths. Gilgamesh, a demigod, begins looking for eternal life after losing his best friend. Utnapishtim, the only man to escape death, gives him two challenges to gain immortality. Failing both, Gilgamesh faces his own mortality, questioning the meaning of his life and fighting the idea of meaninglessness. Whether Gilgamesh truly existed is irrelevant, because in his failure to obtain immortality, Gilgamesh cements himself in the world archives, gaining eternal recognition.
Greek mythology began with oral storytelling, one of the earliest written records being Hesiod's Theogony, recording the universe's origin story along with the gods who rule it. An important aspect of the Greek myth were the heroes, who overcome a challenge, gaining a reward, or those who fall to their fate in defeat. Art and literature are majorly influenced by these characters, as they set a stage to discuss topics such as love and war.
In Central America, the Aztecs took inspiration from the Maya and Inca. The Aztecs' origin story begins with Ametlachitli, a sign of fertility responsible for human existence, representing duality, light-dark, female and male, motion and stillness, and order and chaos. Ametlachitli is often shown decorated in corn because of its important role in Aztec society as the main natural source of subsistence. Because he stays in heaven, he has no temple, as humans would be unable to interact with him. As Mesopotamia declined, Egypt became a guiding religious factor in its place. Egyptian mythology was not limited to Egypt, but was also observed by surrounding civilizations. Maintaining a focus on reincarnation, benevolent deities, and the concept of eternal life after death, many cultures were influenced by Egypt when it came to their own mythology. Egypt didn't hold the same idea of a hell that is common in monotheistic religions, and instead believed that, even in a world of eternal suffering, one would still maintain their own existence. This concept is reflected in neighboring societies.
Greek history ends in the Hellenistic period when Greece is conquered by the Roman Republic. However, the absorption of Greek populations into Roman society meant Greek mythology, along with culture, art, and science, did far from disappear. Most Roman gods were simply the Roman parallel of Greek gods, but Romans did adapt the myths to fit their own ideals. Most Roman mythology is historical, and it can at times be indistinguishable between truth and myth.
European contact with the Americas marked a massive period of change. Spaniard pressure on the Aztecs led Aztec Emperor Montezuma II to surrender, where in quick time the Aztec Empire was colonized. In this process, the conversion of native people to Catholicism meant the decline of native religion and culture. The loss of major leaders that aided in worship meant it marked the end of the Aztec religion, fading into the annex of time as mythology. The Spaniards succeeded in evangelicalism, but in the process decimated another culture's potential.
The world's growing population, globalization, alongside external factors brought new interpretations of universal themes, spanning from subtle to drastic effects on local beliefs.
Like those before, Egypt's thriving mythology began its decline. Christianity's rise in the 5th century by European exploration meant the end of long-standing Egyptian traditions. However, the survival of the Egyptian language in this period meant ancient Egyptian culture was able to live on in written record form. Later, rising Islamic powers in the area took place as the main religious influence, causing the language to shift to Arabic and religion towards Islam. Today, Egypt's population is about 90% Sunni Muslim with about 10% Christians.
Globally, themes of heroism, hubris, and justice are reoccurring, but they held a central role in Greece, where characters in Greek mythology are fated with choices concerning themselves and choices with potential to affect the world around them. These themes directly affected Greece's political system of democracy, where Greek citizens had power to vote and participate in government, the potential to break free of fate or fall to it. Today, many countries around the world utilize aspects of Greek democracy.
Today, about 2 million people still speak Nahuatl, the Aztec language. While detailed records were kept of Aztec cities, far villages went undocumented. Little is known about the religious practices of the people who didn't live in highly populated Aztec cities, so historians theorize that they likely followed similar gods and moral codes. The present Aztec villages are still thriving, some practicing the original religion, while others may have converted to Catholicism or Protestantism after Spaniard conquest. Today, most of these villages fall in between, as forms of syncretism take place.
To revisit Joseph Campbell's monomyth, globally, curiosity has driven thought in science. It is that leads humans to innovation. This shared characteristic is what guided humans to formulate complex relationships with the world based on their understanding of it. Mythology is merely one of these relationships, created in an attempt to understand the world, and throughout history, the mythology of countless societies has guided justice, unity, tradition, intellectual pursuit, and survival within them.
Mythology is indefinite. It changes form as whatever the people who created them needed it to be. However, because the basis of it is to provide a listener with the truth, mythology stays unchanging because it's left open to interpretation. Providing this truth allows someone to interpret their own purpose. Shared mythology meant shared purpose, which strengthened unity and social cohesion. These myths are the accumulation of efforts of those who made an effort to understand the world around them and their place in it.
To answer Campbell's question, mythology elevates the life of a believer from a mundane existence to one embedded with eternal meaning. The meaning of the myth is most important, not the literal truth or details.
Ultimately, mythology is the human interpretation of universal truths. In this way, mythology never truly fades away. It only evolves, adapts, and changes form alongside us.
The significance of mythology is that it survives the test of time, where it can continue to resonate with a modern audience because they were written for individual translation.
Thank you. This has been Lauren Ernsberger
and Hunter Lee.